This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Glim your dishes.
This is ABC Television Network.
Good afternoon, New York, and welcome to yet another Saturday report on the recent news. Today with you are your hosts Jen Smith and Ashley Brown. Our report today is very different to the usual Saturday news.
This Saturday night will be more serious and devastating than anything we have covered before. We are going to talk about the traumatic events of the Great Japanese Expansion, which started in 1931.
But not only are we going to examine the issues, we're also going to interview a Chinese woman who has first-handedly dealt with the Japanese expansion and the cruel and inhumane actions of the Japanese forces.
The Nanking Massacre, part of the Imperial Japanese expansion, will remain in history as one of the darkest days. The horrific crimes committed will be remembered forever. It might as well be called the Rape of Nanking.
Our reporter Vasily will now follow up with more information about the saddening event.
As a journalist, I have just been in touch with confidential resources in China that delivered the tragic news to me. For the past 6 weeks, Imperial Japanese forces have been brutally murdering hundreds of thousands of Nanking citizens, including soldiers and civilians. It will be undoubtedly known as the Nanking Massacre, or the Rape of Nanking, since around 80,000 women were sexually assaulted. The once beautiful capital state of China was left in ruins. This started after a gruesome victory in Shanghai during the Sino-Japanese War. The Japanese turned their attention towards Nanking, in which nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek feared to lose his soldiers in Nanking. He ordered the removal of nearly all official Chinese troops from the city, leaving it defended by untrained auxiliary troops. Once the Japanese troops arrived in the city, commanded by General Matsuei Iwane, they killed Chinese soldiers in the thousands, entire families massacred, and tens of thousands of women raped. Afterwards, the Japanese looted and burned at least 1/3 of Nanking's buildings. They even attacked the Nanking safety zone, which was meant to be untouched by Japanese soldiers, but fortunately, afterwards, a puppet government was installed which would rule Nanking to the end of World War II. Moreover, Americans supported China a lot during the massacre, and most of the civilians of China are grateful for this. I hope everyone would agree that the Japanese soldiers were merciless people and should be punished for what they have done during this Nanking massacre.
But not only are we going to examine the issues, we're also going to interview a Chinese woman who has first-handedly dealt with the Japanese expansion and the cruel and inhumane actions of the Japanese forces.
Today we're interviewing Lynn. Hello, and thank you for being with us.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
So, could you please tell us a bit about yourself and your experiences?
For years, all the people in China knew about the Japanese intentions and their continuous attempts to invade and take control of China. Then in 1931, we started hearing that the Japanese were attacking various cities starting from Manchuria. One day, my husband had gone to work when me and my children were at home. Later in the day, we started hearing people screaming, and I looked outside, and to our horror, we saw the Japanese getting into other people's homes. We rushed to hide in our basement, hoping that they wouldn't find us. We stayed there and waited for days. When we got out, we realized that the city had fallen to the Japanese, and my husband hadn't returned home yet.
Also, what did you first see and feel when the Japanese invaded Nanking?
I looked outside and I realized that we were unable to go out. You could see blood everywhere. The horrifying atmosphere made me tremble with fear. The Japanese had slaughtered innocent children, and the horror didn't seem to have an ending.
Last question. Would you want to say something for those who are fighting and defending your country so this nightmare could finally end?
I'm so grateful to them, and I wish them the best. I'm hopeful that everything will be fine in the end, and that none of us will give up. We have all been through difficult times, and we learned the hard way. The Japanese are out of control, and I hope that the death and disaster will be over soon. I also want to say a big thank you to all of those who are defending me and the whole country from the Japanese invaders. And without you, I wouldn't have the chance to be here today.
That was the interview. Thank you, Lynn, for sharing your experience with us.
As you've just seen, this tragedy is beyond anything we've ever seen before.
It is really devastating to see people being treated in this manner, and it seems that the Japanese are not eager to end this type of treatment anytime soon. This horrific incident was in fact planned by the Imperial Japanese commanding officers, and they brutally murdered thousands of people.
In just 6 years, the Japanese have conquered much of Eastern Asia, and who knows how much more they're willing to do to reach their goal. So far, they've concentrated their powers on Asia, but how long will it be before they extend their expansion to the United States?
How long before they threaten the safety of the entire world? They need to be stopped before more damage is caused and more innocent people lose their lives.
What is even more horrific is that most of their targets were just innocent civilians. They were women, children, and elderly, all unarmed and unable to defend themselves.
And imagine all the children who are going to be haunted by these horrific memories for the rest of their lives, mourning the losses of their friends and families. What did they do to deserve this?
Then again, it's always the people that cause no harm that end up hurting the most.
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.